Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to do a special selection today, which is where one of you tell me exactly what I need to check out. If you'd like to submit your own special selection, you can find the link to do so in the description below. We're going to look at somebody who has continued to intrigue me every time I've heard something new from him. Jonathan says, "More Tom Waits!" This time we'll go to 70s singer-songwriter work with Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis. I'd highly recommend listening with the subtitles on, as this is one of Waits' best story songs. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm really intrigued. Every time I hear Waits, it's a completely different style. He has so much variety and a real grit to his voice. I'm really interested in what he's going to be doing today. So let's check it out. Tom Waits, Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis. Yeah, I love the separation here between more of the chordal structure and then the riffing on the right. And I like how the progression sort of alludes to Christmas without actually being the Christmassy chords.
Living on 9th Street, right above a dirty bookstore off Euclid Avenue. I stopped taking dope, I quit drinking whiskey. My old man plays the trombone and works out at the track.
Yeah, love the way that lined up.
He says that he loves me.
That vibrato too. Oh man.
He says that he raised him up like he was on sun. He gave me a ring that was worn by his mother. He takes me out dancing every Saturday night. Hey Charlie, I think about you every time I pass the filling station.
Yeah.
I count all the grease you used to wear in your hair.
Yeah, and the way that the right-hand riffing piano is playing off of the melody line.
Record,
yeah.
Little Anthony and the Imperials. Someone stole my record player. Oh, now how do you like that?
Yeah. Put that little fermata there and really drag it out. Really feel the weight of how that might make this person feel.
Mario got busted. I went back to Omaha to live with my folks. Everyone I used to know was either dead or in prison. Came back to Minneapolis. This time I think I'm gonna stay. Hey, Charlie, I think I'm happy for the first time since my accident. I wish I had all the money we used to spend on dope.
That delivery.
Buy me a used car lot. I wouldn't sell any of them. I'd just drive a different car every day, depending on how I feel. Hey, Charlie, for God's sake, if you want to know the truth of it, I don't have a husband. He don't play the trombone. I need to borrow money to Petty's lawyer, Charlie Hay. I'll be eligible for parole come Valentine's Day.
Okay. Yeah. So that took a turn there at the end, narratively. So there's actually something really interesting here. I mean, obviously we have some of the Christmassy vibes going on, and that's sort of contrasted with sort of the grit in his voice. Um, but there's also something really interesting going on with the lyrics. But before we get into the lyrics, I do want to talk a little bit about the structure of the song. There really isn't a lot to say here. It's a rather simple track as far as the music goes, but I think it's important. You know, the song is called "Christmas Card from Hooker in Minneapolis." It's already invokes this idea of Christmas, and I like how it goes for sort of a jazzier feel for it as far as the piano work. It's got a light swing element to it, and then it just has some jazzy chords thrown in there with some quick playing, and it just has that jazz piano kind of vibe going. But I think what's more interesting, and I mentioned it, is looking at the chords. You listen to that opening 30 seconds or so, whatever it was, and it's not a Christmas song, but between the title of the track and the adjacency of the chords, it has a Christmassy feel to it. And I think that's really cool that he didn't go out of his way to directly say, hey, look, this is a Christmas song. He kind of gives a Christmas vibe to it, which could also illuminate a little bit into this idea here. It is a Christmas card being sent, but is it Christmas time? How long did the card take to get to this person? So I like how there's this um, adjacency to Christmas in the music and in the story, possibly, and in the title, but none of it is Christmassy. And I think it's just really awesome how he found a way to evoke the feeling of Christmas in all three elements, the narrative, the title, and the music, without actually doing anything Christmas, without explicitly saying Christmas in any of it. So yeah, just right off the bat, it's multi-layered attention to detail there that I can't ignore. Um, but then just listening to the music itself, I love how it has this upbeat, jazzy vibe to it. Jazz has been used to showcase a lot of different, not even a lot, a few different emotions or vibes or atmospheres across the years. And I think this one of sort of just chilling, living your best life, kind of happy go lucky song fits so well because of the eventual rug being pulled out from under him. Well, under the reader of this letter, this Charlie person. Now, there's a lot of styles of music that would have achieved the same thing, but I think going for the jazz vibe, I don't know if that's kind of just his bread and butter, and he just writes a lot of jazzy stuff in this era of his writing. Um, that could have been true. It was the 70s, I think, is what Jonathan said. So it could have just been the sound of the times, but a lot of the way that he speaks, sings, the vocabulary he uses, it just works very well with this sort of jazzy vibe. And again, it could have just been a product of the times, but looking at it anachronistically from the future, We're talking 40 years displaced here. The vibe just works very well. I absolutely love the atmosphere that the song speaks to me of. It reminds me of, somebody in a bar, possibly playing the piano, possibly having a pianist play for him. In this smoky bar, everybody in suits and hats, um, singing this song. The style of the lyrics, the delivery, it provides this concept that again could be heavily influenced by pop culture and media through the ages of how I perceive this music now. But it really comes together for me, and I really enjoy the stage that is set between the Christmassy adjacentness plus the mood of the sound of the song before we even introduce any lyrics. The picture is set, the stage is set here, and it's just a phenomenal attention to detail in 30 seconds. It's really great. Now, interestingly, this sound also has a particular vibe for me because of the way that Tom sings. It's that grit, that heavy compression he puts on his vocals, or maybe even is just the way that he sings. I don't know. I actually haven't heard him sing any other way, so I don't know if this is just his vocals or if he puts this compression on top of it, but it's very reminiscent of Louis Armstrong, who is a jazz legend. So hearing this jazzy piano with these really harsh, gritty vocals, it fits so well for me and kind of gives me a bit of nostalgia. This is definitely a style I listened to a lot as a teenager, trying to improve my own jazz trumpet playing and listening to Louis Armstrong, among other trumpeters, and really getting into this vibe, this type of music. It is just it's 30 seconds into the song, and I'm really into it already. Then the lyrics come in, and before we talk about the lyrics, I keep pushing them off, I know, but I do want to talk about the way the piano is used and the way that it's produced. I am curious if this is a new production of it. This is the video is from 2020. It doesn't say anything about reproducing or remixing the song, but I love the clarity and the way that the piano is separated. It creates this beautiful triad of sound where our left ear has chords, our right ear has flourishes, and center panned is the melody, it's the vocals. And it creates this beautiful triad, a perfect separation of pieces of the song. And yeah, it's just done really well. And then the riffing, the right panned piano doing those little embellishing lines, all of it is done so well. It's so tasteful. And it's these beautiful lines, even on their own, but within the context of the chord progression and playing off of and around Tom's vocals as the melody. Um, it is just really gorgeous. It kind of morphs at times between being counterpoint to Tom's melody and sort of just being an embellishing ornamental aspect to the song to fill in space, and it moves between these two concepts so effortlessly that there really is no time when I could say, oh, this is counterpoint and this is when it goes to embellishment and then it goes back to counterpoint. It just kind of moves between them fluidly, and it is, man, it is just some gorgeous writing. All right, I've gushed about that enough. Let's get to these lyrics. The song is much like the music, lyrically straightforward. We have somebody writing to a person named Charlie, and they're talking about their life and how it's better. They're pregnant. They stopped taking drugs. They stopped drinking whiskey. Their husband is a good man, it seems. Plays trombone. Works out at the track. The kid that she's pregnant with isn't even her husband's, but he's gonna raise him anyways. Um, and we already have in mind that from the title, Christmas Card from a Hooker, we know that this person was previously a sex worker, and the life seems to be a lot more stable. And she even talks about thinking about the past. Hey Charlie, I think about you when I pass a fill-in station. Um, but then things start to seep out. And I don't think I noticed it while we were listening to it, but in retrospect, some of these lines do seem to provide some foreshadowing to what would eventually be the twist, the rug being pulled out. It says, "But somebody stole my record player. Now, how do you like that?" And I think there is something very specific about this line because this is where I mentioned the fermata. There might have been a fermata at the end of other stanzas, but I didn't pick it up. It didn't stand out for whatever reason if it was there. This one was very deliberate. There's a lot of attention given to the slowing down of this section. Tom, whoever, wanted this section to have weight to it. There is a bit of a slowing down. Well, that's what a fermata is. But there's an increase in gravity, an increase of importance to this line. And when I'm listening to it, I'm like, well, that's a bummer. You have a record that reminds you of somebody from your past, but someone stole your record player, and oh yeah, ain't that just the beans? That's not a phrase, but we should make. Ain't that the beans? But yeah, so my thing was everything's been positive so far, and maybe this fermata, this extra length held on to this sentence, how do you like that, is showing how even though everything's bright and happy, maybe that there's some negativity, maybe life isn't as perfect as she's saying, as she's writing in this letter. Did not did not didn't quite get me ready for that final stanza, but yeah, I think this introduction of something insidious, and I think this is the beginning of the truth seeping through, because of course later on we find out she's in jail. Someone stole a record player, could well be um that could have been part of the arrest. Who knows? Maybe somebody really did steal it, and it's not so much the theft in this fantasy world of hers, but an actual theft of a record player. And then things start to get dark, and I can't tell if this is part of that fantasy of the good life or if this is actually truthful. And the reason I'm going to talk about this later because there is a twist in how the vocals are composed that I think gives some information about what is truth and what is fantasy. This still sits in the fantasy realm as far as I'm concerned with the way that works. But she says she almost went crazy after somebody else got busted. She went back to live with her parents, but you know, back in her old town, things aren't great. She says everyone's either dead or in prison, so I came back to Minneapolis. She says this time I think I'm gonna stay. Again, very surface level read, but I do think it kind of veers towards the fantasy realm. I don't think she ever left. It might have been that she thought about leaving, and maybe Mario getting busted was a real thing. I'd have to go back and listen to how that line was delivered because I think Tom does a fantastic job at singing lines differently to imply different ideas. And finally, the last fantasy verse says, "Hey Charlie, I think I'm happy for the first time since my accident. I wish I had all the money we used to spend on dope. I'd buy a used car lot, and when it sell any of them, I'd drive a different car every day." This sort of borders on the fantasy because it might be her true intentions, but it's also another level of a fantasy life. It's something that she wished she would have. Now, what ties all of these together is the rhyming scheme. It's non-existent. These 5 stanzas read off like a letter. There is a bit of an ebb and flow that work rhythmically with what's going on. It all fits within a meter, but there's also a bit of variety in the meter as well. It's not like each sentence or each line of the stanza has the same amount of syllables to them. They don't have a rhyme scheme within stanzas or within lines. It plays out, or at least looks on paper, because like I said, Tom does sing it in a style that fits 4/4 in the tempo that's set. But written out as a poem, it looks more like a letter that's just been broken up into 4 lines, 4 line paragraphs, rather than standard writing of paragraphs. But here's something that's interesting. When the rug gets pulled out from under us in the final stanza, when she reveals that she's been lying this whole time. Charlie, do you want to know the truth? I don't have a husband. Then she says, I need to borrow money to pay this lawyer, and Charlie, hey, I'll be eligible for parole come Valentine's Day. Now, there is a bit of colloquialism to this line that we really don't see elsewhere. We do see some slang and, not necessarily slang, just, I guess colloquial is the word, just more conversational words and the way that phrases are constructed, but nothing quite like this, where she says, I need to borrow some money to pay this lawyer, and Charlie, hey. Put the hey in the middle of the statement rather than saying, hey, Charlie, I need to borrow some money. So, first of all, this becomes a lot more relaxed. There is less attention to the structure of the sentence, but additionally, it is done for a secondary reason so that the hey can line up and rhyme with Valentine's Day. We have a rhyme scheme here at the end when she reveals her true intentions. This, I feel, is the huge thing right here. When I was talking about structures, lyrical structures, rhyming schemes, this is when we see the true her. And that's why I think the other 5 stanzas, even though we begin to see some more possible elements of truth to it, they're all still fantasy. You really have to look into it. I also think it's important to listen to Tom when he's singing this final verse. He sounds tired. Um, the other 5 have this grandioseness to them. He's full-bodied voice, lots of vibrato, lots of grit and strength in it. There are a couple of lines, like I said, where it gets a little weak, and I think that's where we begin to see this facade begin to crack. So, like when he says, "Now, how do you like that?" After the record player was stolen, there's a bit of a lack of that confidence in that line. And like I said, I would like to go back when I listen to it again and listen to how he delivers the idea about Mario getting busted, because I think that might be a bit of truth in there, despite her talking about going back to live with her parents, but then coming back to Minneapolis anyways. And why, I think that's fantasy because of how the sentence is structured and because there's no rhyme scheme. But I think there might be some element of truth in there, even if it's not a full truth. And I got to listen to how Tom delivers those lines. I don't remember exactly. But yeah, in here, in this final verse, though, this final stanza, he's beaten, he's defeated. All of that power, that strength. Look how great my life is. Things are doing fantastic. That whole mask has been removed, and it's not just in the lyrics of saying, I lied to you. This letter's really just about some money. It's in the vocals too. There really is this element of defeat, and I love it. I think it's fantastic. This song comes together on so many levels, despite being so simple. And I think that's something that, myself included, can really learn a thing or two about. I don't have a problem with simple songs too often, but I do find that I gravitate more towards more complex music. And a lot of that's just what I grew up listening to. Um, but there's definitely something that can be done with simpler music, and I don't think this song would be any better. In fact, I think it might be worse, depending on how it might have been handled, if there were more elements added. Even something as simple as adding a drum kit, even a restrained drum kit of possibly snare, bass, and hi hat, nothing else. I think could easily throw the song out of whack and reduce its impact. There is something about the simplicity here that really helps add to what the song is doing and make it what it is. And despite the simplicity, there's still a lot of thought that went into everything here that helps tie it all together and to elevate it to something that is greater than the sum of its parts. So yeah, absolutely love this. Fantastic pick. I'm always happy to hear new Tom. Tom Waits, he's always doing something different. It may not be something that I want to listen to a lot, but it's always intriguing. I always have a lot to say. And yeah, the dude just has a lot of variety. Interesting guy. Plus, I mean, he made an entire song, very engaging song, entertaining as well, off of such a mundane thing. This is probably something that has happened before and probably happens today and probably will continue to happen. Whether it's this specific idea of a sex worker getting in contact with somebody or not, the idea of um, setting, being a low class person and not low class like having no class, but poor, not doing too great financially, and trying to butter somebody up or butter yourself up in order to get some money to help you out. I mean, that is a real world thing right there. And he finds a way to dress it up into a song that isn't boring or preachy or anything. It's entertaining, if nothing else, and eye opening at the very least. So, yeah, I absolutely love what he does. He's just a great artist. This is where you guys come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you thought of this one, if you enjoyed it or not. If you agree with me on anything, disagree, if you have your own thoughts, go ahead and let me know. Above the comment section, there's a description box, and in there is a link for a Linktree. Take you to this menu right here. It has everything related to the channel. If you want to submit your own special selection, you can find the links in there. You can pick up some merch, join the Patreon, join the Discord, follow me on Twitter, check out what I've been listening to. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff in there. Go look at it. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell if you could. Those buttons are above the description box. That is it for today. Pretty good day actually. We had Zun and now Tom Waits. Yeah, excellent. Tomorrow I'll be back 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC. We're going to be looking at the cover of the Zun track that we checked out earlier, and we'll be looking at our creator request, which is where a band gets in contact with me and asks me to check out their music. All right, until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.